Good evening for those of you who are watching me live. And then for those of you who are watching on the restream or on the playback, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is when you're watching. This is the Steps Headed Podcast. I am your host. I am Stephen B, and I am the resident expert here on the Steps Headed Podcast. I want to thank you all so much for taking your time this evening to join me as we talk about some things that are going on, as we unfold and unpack some letters. We're actually doing a 2-for-1 special tonight. We're actually going to be doing 2 letters on tonight's show. And so this should be really good, really impactful. It's a lot of good information we're going to be sharing with you guys on tonight. Listen, this is once again the Steps Headed Podcast. I am Stephen B. I am your host. Please take a moment while you're here. Thank you so much for joining. Go ahead and start liking and sharing this post. Let the people know that you are in the room. Let the people know you're in the building with me tonight. Let the people know we're about to have some fun. We're about to do some talking about some stuff and stuff and stuff. So I'm trying to allow a moment to let the people come in. Um, make sure y'all can hear me. Make sure y'all can see me. Make sure we are good and crispy on the show on today. Once again, I am Stephen B. I am your host. And like Shannon Sharp shares, Shannon, I do this every week and I always get tongue tied. Like Shannon Sharp says, he is the proprietor of Club Shay Shay. I am Stephen B. and I am the proprietor of Steps Edit Podcast. So before we get too deep into our show, we do have breaking news. We have breaking news on tonight. So I'm pretty sure you all have been seeing the information, you've been hearing the things that have been going on about the legislation and the bill that has been introduced about closing some of our colleges and universities here in the state of Mississippi. Well, I was having a conversation with actually my fifth grade teacher. And although I knew everything that was going on, I was not aware of this new piece of information. And so she informed me that, and you can actually see it here, but I've also shared it on my Steps Edit page, so you can go there and get details. But Senator John Polk, who is the owner and the proprietor of Polk Meats in Hattiesburg, he is the individual who introduced the bill about closing the schools. Now, to properly set the stage on this, all of the public universities have been listed. Okay. We just want to set the stage. You know, I don't want to make it seem like I'm being skewed or one sided or only giving partial information. Uh, but so all of the colleges, all of the public colleges and universities have been listed. However, the ones that we are most concerned about are our three historically black colleges and universities, which would be the Jackson State University, Mississippi Valley State, and Alcorn State University. Now, under this bill, there is a possibility that these schools could be closing. And the big part of it, and I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this tonight because that's not the focus. Again, this is breaking news. What we're calling for, the focus is making sure that we're able to protect our colleges and our universities. Um, you know, we know the other schools are on there, but we also know who's at the biggest risk. John Polk, who is the owner of Polk Meats, is the one who's saying the state can't afford to support 8 colleges and universities. Well, Mr. Polk, here on the Steps Edit podcast, we want you to know that we spend our money where we're wanted. And so we're calling for a boycott of Polk Meats. Okay. I'm not the one calling the boycott. I am the one supporting it. So we're asking everyone, please, please, please keep your money in your pocket when it comes to Polk Meats. Do not support. Since he can't afford us, then we not gonna support him. That's my position. That's what I feel about it. And that's all I got to say about that. Thank you. And so now we're headed into our regularly scheduled program. Tonight's podcast is brought to you by Bonjour Bell. Bonjour Bell is your premier event event coordinating service. So are you dreaming of the perfect event but feeling overwhelmed by all of the details? Look no further than Bonjour Bell Event Coordinating Services. With our expert team of planners, we bring your vision to life down to the finest details. From weddings to corporate events, birthdays to baby showers, Bonjour Bell is your go to for all your event coordinating needs. Let us handle the logistics while you enjoy a stress free experience. Contact us today and we will work with your planning team to organize your unforgettable event. Remember, when you don't want to do it, call Bonjour Bell. We got you covered. So that is our sponsor on tonight. I will make sure we have all of that information listed for you so that you can contact Bonjour Bell for your event coordinating needs. So now that we got all of that taken care of, let's jump into our first letter. And here we go. Dear Step Said It, my male friend has been messing with this lady friend on and off for years. Both parties are in their late 40s and have been previously married. My male friend has one daughter that is 25. The lady has three children, two daughters, ages 10 and 16, and a son that's 19. My friend is very attracted to the woman and made it very clear to the woman that he was looking for love. The lady's father is a pastor and she currently resides next door to her parents. My friend would always talk about how her parents are involved in their relationship. Interesting. One day, her father found out he was visiting and explained to his daughter that he did not want the man visiting if she wasn't married. Interesting. He asked her to marry him under the conditions she would speak to her parents about boundaries. She refused, so he called off the marriage. January 2024, they saw each other out and he asked, can they start back dating? She told him she was in a serious relationship and wanted nothing to do with him. Out of the blue, she called him and was being extremely nice, explained the guy she was seeing no longer wanted to see her, and asked if he could come over so they can talk face to face. She explained to him she is trying to get herself back together financially and is needing help getting caught up on her bills, so he helped. The teen daughter comes in to speak and said, my mom told me to ask you to get my hair done. He gave her the money. My friend is watching her kids while she goes to work, making groceries for her home, cooking, and picking the kids up from school. She isn't spending any of her money because she is trying to save to get herself financially stable. However, he is building her up and causing him to go down. February 2024, my friend told me they went and applied for a marriage license. He never told me they actually were married on that day. I found out from one of her family members that was present. Her father married them over the phone because he didn't approve of the relationship. Her family was invited, but none of his family was allowed to come. I asked him why wasn't his family allowed to come. He told me it wasn't planned. I know my friend really loves her and he has a heart of gold. The fact that this woman was just in a serious relationship a month ago seems a bit odd to me. I personally think the woman is using him. She knows he loves her, and I feel she only wanted to marry him because of the financial benefits. What do you think about this? I think oh, what do I think about this? I think okay. All right. So this is the Step City podcast where if you ask me, I'll tell you. I understand this is your friend. I understand this is someone who is close to you, someone who is special to you. And I understand that this is someone who you want to protect. However, if he in his late 40s, he a grown man. And so if this is how he wants to spend his life, I think the best thing you can do is mind your business. Now, do I have an opinion about what's going on? I do. If you want my opinion, I tell you, I ain't saying she a gold digger, but at the rate they going, he gonna be a broke. But that was a decision he made. He knew. So you mentioned that it was that she was in a relationship in the early part of January. She saw him, and then she said she wanted nothing to do with him. He was there for that conversation. He knew that conversation. He heard that conversation. In February, you talked to him and he said they applied for a marriage license, or she called him and said the guy didn't want me. So can we talk? I'm trying to get my finances together. I'm trying to get myself situated. He went over to the house. Somehow that was a proposal, some way, somehow. Somebody asked somebody to marry somebody and somebody said yes. So he as much as it hurts you to see this happen to your friend, this was a decision he made. This is a decision that she made, and they got to live with it. And the reality is, that's his house. That's it's not your business. And and I don't mean to be crass when I say it. I don't mean to be cruel because I understand wanting the best for a friend. But if if that's what he wanted, he got it. Now, that me personally, I don't know because you say they have been involved for years, and then he came over to the house. The daddy said, "I don't want him visiting if y'all not married." Well, if he visiting, then it shouldn't be a problem with the daddy, even if the daddy is a pastor. So how did daddy know what's going on in the house if they just visited? And the reality is, and when I say this, I mean no disrespect to parents, but you if you grown and you want to do what grown people do what grown people do. And if this is my house and that's your house, daddy, this my house, daddy, you can't righteously tell me what's going on in my house, daddy, unless you paying the bills in my house. Now, if daddy paying the bills in the house, then daddy can determine who can and cannot come over and what they do when they come over there, which apparently is what happened. But then he made a decision. He proposed. Apparently, she agreed to propose to the proposal, but he said, "But your parents got to stay out of our business." She said, "No, my parents not gonna stay out of our business." And so he called it off, but then he called it back on, or he agreed, and so he married her. I mean, I'm sorry. In this case, you got what you got what you wanted. You probably got more than you bargained for, but you got what you wanted. So he married her for love. She married him for money. I think it's a sad case of both people using each other because clearly there was something in his life that was voided that he felt like she could fill that void. And so he said, I will marry you, even knowing that you probably don't love me like I love you, but I'm willing to risk it all and spend it all and do all just to have you in my life. That's unfortunate for him to have such a low self-image that he would give. But then on the flip side, if that's his wife, then it's his responsibility as the husband to take care of the house. That's, I mean, if in fact he married her, then as the husband, he is responsible to bear the burden. That does not take the responsibility off of women to assist or help where and when help is needed. But, and then when you get married, there's no such thing as these are my children and these are your children, because when we get married, then the two become one. So whatever you brought, that becomes mine. So he signed on for that one. He he signed up for that. So that's I yeah, all I can tell him is just congratulations. Enjoy your life. That's really, I could dig deep into, the psyche, and I could dig down into the whole conversation and the thought about it. But the fact is, hey, it ain't my business, your business, anybody on this podcast business. This is only two people really involved and impacted and affected by this relationship, and that's him and her. He agreed, and she's capitalizing. Now, I will say, at some point, he gonna get tired of it. At some point, at some point, he gonna get tired of it. He gonna get enough, unless he got a whole lot of money. In which case, hey, he gonna, I guess, try to see if money really can buy happiness. Oh, but it's gonna cost you a pretty penny. So that's letter number one. So now let's talk about the second letter. Now I'm gonna be honest. I have had this letter, and I hope the person who sent me this letter is watching the show, because I have been sitting on this letter for probably maybe 3 weeks. I want to say this letter came in on week 2. And this letter is a struggle for me because I don't know that I am the right person to actually talk about this letter. I don't know if I'm the right one, because this letter hits real close to home for me. So once again, for those of you who are just joining, thank you so much for joining. This is the Steps Edit podcast. I am Stephen B. I am the host. You can find me here every Thursday at 8 o'clock Central Time. And we're going to dig into this second letter. I will say, I personally feel like somebody who works with me sent this letter in, being trifling. But here is the letter. Dear Steps Edit, I hope this message finds you well. I am writing to express my concern as a disgruntled employee regarding the management style of my supervisor. Unfortunately, my supervisor tends to micromanage every aspect of my work, leading me leaving me, I'm sorry, feeling stifled and demotivated. Her consistent need for control hampers my ability to grow and take initiative. I find myself constantly seeking her approval for even the smallest tasks, which hinders productivity and creativity. I understand the importance of supervision and feedback, but the level of micromanagement has become somewhat suffocating. It not only affects my individual performance, but also impacts the overall efficiency of our team. I kindly request that you address this issue on your podcast, as I believe many others may be facing similar challenges. Any insights or suggestions on how to handle micromanagers would be greatly appreciated. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, overwhelmed and underpaid. So, all I'm saying is, if in fact this was one of my coworkers who sent this letter in, please just let me know it was you. When you see me at work, just tell me it was you so I'll know. Because this some bull right here. But you ask me, so I'll tell you. I don't know how to deal with a micromanaging supervisor. You want me to tell you why I don't know how to deal with a micromanaging supervisor? Because I have a micromanaging supervisor. So now, this is what I'm going to say. For those of you who may be watching this on the replay, or you may be watching this live, or you may be watching this, however you choose to watch it, this is what I'm going to say. This is my podcast. This is my place or my space where I can say whatever I want to say because this is my platform. So if I decide to use real life examples and real life expressions to discuss this topic, I'm currently not at my job. I'm not on the clock. I'm on my own time. So I'm going to say whatever it is I want to say. And if y'all run back and tell him what I said, you. Okay. Now that I got that out the way. So, how do you deal with a micromanaging supervisor? So, the first thing that you have to do is determine, are you being micromanaged or are you being performance managed? Okay? Because, and this is a blanket statement. This is a blanket statement. So I'm not being specific. I'm being blanket. Okay. Sometimes people don't want to be managed because of the lack of desire for accountability. And so when you have a manager who is managing you, you feel like you are being micromanaged because the manager is holding you to the fire and the manager is holding you responsible for the job that you should be doing. So before you determine if you are being micromanaged, you first need to determine if you need to be performance managed. Because if you need to be performance managed, then the manager is doing their job. Okay. Um, sometimes if you always late for work and your manager is always talking to you about being on time for work, that's not micromanaging. That's holding you accountable. If you are missing benchmarks and your supervisor is reminding you of the benchmarks that you are supposed to meet on a regular basis, that's not micromanaged. That's performance managed. Before you can get to the point of saying I'm being micromanaged, you need to make sure you're hitting all of your benchmarks. Okay. Um, Now, but if you can say you're crossing the majority of your T's and you're dotting the majority of your I's, and you have a manager who is still riding you and on your back, and you find yourself frustrated, because this is what happens with micromanaging. When you have a micromanaging supervisor, it makes you not want to come to work. It like you pull up in the parking lot and then you sit in your car and you just look at the building and you just look at the building. You could actually be on time for work, but you spend 15 minutes just sitting in the car looking at the building like, oh my God, why? And so then you find yourself, you start saying stuff like, okay, help me, Jesus. Or you find yourself saying stuff like, not today, devil. Or you looking in the parking lot and you trying to see if you see his vehicle. I almost said red Jeep. You find yourself, and then when you walk in the building, like when you have a micromanaging supervisor, it really can just suck the motivational life out of you. It just gets intense. So the question is, how do you deal with the manager? Step one, don't take it personal unless they make it personal. Before we get to the steps, let's talk about what will make a manager micromanage. There are a couple of things that'll make a manager micromanage you. One of the first things that it could just be, it's a habit. Like this was the way this person was always managed. And so that was the only example of management that they had. And so because that was the management example that they had, then that was the way they learned how to manage. Is if they were always managed with an iron fist, then that's how they manage, is with an iron fist. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that's just how people learn. They learn from examples. Some people will micromanage you because of their own insecurity in the position that they're in. So they may be micromanaging you, and it may not be you, the individual. They may be micromanaging the department because of their own insecurity. So they may feel like, you know what, I don't really qualify to be in this position, but I don't want them to take this position. So I got to make sure that I'm nitpicking everything in the department to make sure that they don't have something to come back to me to say. Another reason why a manager will micromanage you, it could be because they're intimidated by you. So they don't they want to keep they micromanage you, and they want to make sure that they control your processes, and they want to make sure that they control what you have going on, because they're intimidated and they don't want you to shine brighter than them and take credit. So at least then, if you shine, they can take credit for the shine. But if you fail, they're going to be the ones driving the bus that run over you. Oh, hold on. Here we go. I'm going to drop this comment on the screen. This comment says, worked with a micromanager at my last job. It was miserable. For the 10 things I did right, she would always highlight one thing I did wrong. Favorite line was, we've had several complaints. Sometimes, and yes, a micromanaging supervisor it just makes you not want to do it. Because this is the other thing. One thing that a micromanager does is anything that you do, they'll take it and they'll nitpick it and they'll do it again and they'll do it over, which removes the motivation for me to want to do it. Because what happens is, in my mind, I'm saying, well, if you were going to go back and do it anyway, then there was no point in me doing it in the first place. Or what a micromanager will do is they will look over your shoulder the entire time that you're doing on something. And a lot of times that's not micromanaging. What they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out why you're doing or how you're doing what you're doing, because they don't know what they're doing. And so they don't want to ask for help. So they make you do it and then watch. And then once everything is done, then they're going to put their name on it and take the credit. But they're going to call it the department. But if it goes wrong, then you didn't do, or you didn't do, or you didn't do. The other thing that a micromanager does not do is a micromanager does not coach. A micromanager complains. And there's a difference. There's a difference. If you are going to coach me, if you see me doing something wrong, then coach me to be better. But don't just nitpick what I'm doing because you don't like the way I'm doing it, even though I'm accomplishing said results. If you tell me to go to North Park and I decide to get on I-55, but I make it to North Park and I make it to North Park on time, don't come to me and say, well, you should have gone up 51 or you should have gone around on Highland Colony, but I got there. Interesting question here. See, this is what I like. I like the dialogue. Thank y'all for dialoguing with me. So Yoki Yoko says, so as a manager, should you fire them or should you continue to show them and they take that as micromanaging? So that goes to my initial point. My initial point was there's a difference between micromanaging and performance managing. If you have an employee who is not performing, then your job as the manager is to either coach them up or coach them out. Meaning, and see, and that goes to, again, that was the point where, do you show them and they take that as micromanaging? Well, that's if you are actually trying to show them what to do, and if you're trying to make them a better employee and they take it the wrong way, then that's not on the manager, that's on the employee. But if they are hitting the benchmarks, but you're always nitpicking about the way they missed, about the benchmarks they missed, like the comment that was made earlier, I can do 10 things right, but if I do one thing wrong, that's the only thing that you talk about when we have a meeting. That's not coaching. That's complaining. That's nitpicking. And that will kill morale. Because if I come into a situation and I've done everything right, or I've done the very best that I know to do, and the only thing you do is highlight all of the things that I did wrong, then I am completely demotivated. I think I just made up a word, but I am completely demotivated to keep trying. So even if I don't quit the job, I'll quit working. Or I'll half do stuff. I'll do just enough to stay out of trouble. Here we go. Good comment. This person said, as long as the person has a desire to learn and strive to do well, coach them. Exactly. And this is the other thing. This is why you have a human resources department, because if they are not performing and you have done what you can do to coach them, then write they up and get they out. Period. So here we go. What if the manager puts notes everywhere to make sure the staff does their job, but they still continue to not, and the manager do micro. So that's to your point. If you've provided the tools, or if you are providing the tools and you are giving them everything that they need, and they are still not performing, then you write they up and you get they out. And that's I mean, because the thing that we're dealing with is we're all adults. And so if I have to micromanage you, if I and this is and this is key what I'm about to say. If I have to micromanage you, then that's a you problem. If I choose to micromanage you, that's a me problem. Very familiar with this type of management, and it's sad to say that this type of management is so prevalent in my line of work, the church. Ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to introduce my brother, Kenneth the Maestro Brandon. He is, yeah. Hold on. I'm going to put you out there. So this person said, I need that beeping button. I know you do. So yeah, I mean, and I don't want to spend. See, I'm already overtime. I am 10 minutes longer than I'm supposed to be, but y'all adding these comments and y'all making me talk right now, huh? Okay, all right, Yoki Yoko. Um, so we just have to know. We have to be able, as individuals, we have to know that we are all adults, and as an adult, I know my job. I know my responsibility. I know what I am being paid to do. And as a supervisor, and the interesting thing about me is, for those of you who know me, y'all know I have had a lot of jobs in a lot of different industries with a lot of different positions. I have been a frontline worker. I have been a supervisor. I have been Okay, yes. Give me a minute. Yes, I will talk about it. Give me a second. I have been a supervisor. I've been a manager. I've been a director. I've been in human resources. So, I have a very extensive resume. And it's not one of those things I'm necessarily proud of, but on the other hand, I am. But we we understand I understand I have a job to do. And even on a higher level, I understand that even a CEO of a company can be micromanaged by a board of directors. Micromanaging across the board is very toxic, but you have to understand. And again, this is the difference between micromanaging and performance managing. If I'm coaching you, if we are having regular conversations about the things that are going right, the things that are going wrong, if we are having regular discussions about the ways that you can improve your work, if we're having regular discussions about things that can be done to make your work life better, and to make your work and your work life balance more balanced, then that's coaching. But if I send you an email, or I send you a message on Teams, or I send you a text message, and then 3 minutes later I'm calling you asking you, did you get my message? Or if I ask you a question, and your first question, and instead of you answering my question, you're asking me, well, why do you need to know that? Or if I'm trying to show a way that this could be better, and you're saying, well, no, this is not what we're going to do. We're going to do it this way. but then you turn around and end up doing it the way that it was suggested to be done. See, that's micromanaging, and that's all from a place of intimidation. If you intimidated by the people that work with you, then you are not suited to be in the position that you're in. Step down and make the business better. If you don't like it, then you're not suited for the position. Because the thing is, as a manager, and Yoki Yoko, I'm not talking about you when I say this, because I know exactly who this is. I'm not talking about you. But if you're not a people person and you don't know how to manage people and you don't know how to manage processes, then you don't need to be a manager. Just be a frontline worker. You know what? I'm finna put you on screen. I'm finna put you on here. Okay. So if I was a manager and my night auditor about to fall out the chair sleep, should I keep calling it and make sure he's up? Nope. If you don't want him sleeping at work, you should fire him. That's what you should do. Because if your night auditor got 3 jobs and you know your night auditor got 3 jobs and you know he gonna leave your job and go to his regular job, but you don't want him to sleep, then if you don't want him to sleep or fall out the chair, fire him. I said what I said. Oh, and then I'm gonna go back up and grab your other comment. Sexual harassment in the workplace is not accepted. Yeah, listen. That's another comment. That's another I'm gonna need you to write a letter, Yoki Yoko. I'm gonna need you to submit a letter. I'm gonna need you to send a letter to stepsaidit@gmail.com, and we'll talk about that last one. Okay, because this is micromanaging. This is not HR sexual harassment. Not tonight, but we will talk about it. Okay. But to my point, and I'm gonna bring it to a close. I'm done. We wrapping it up. If you are an employee and you have to deal with a micromanager, and I know I hadn't even told you how to deal with one, because the reality is I don't have the answer, because I deal with one on a daily basis. And some days are good days, some days are I don't know how to deal with a micromanager. But what I'm gonna do is, when I figure it out, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna redo this podcast. And I'm gonna give you an answer. But I low key think one of my coworkers wrote this letter for me, because they know I deal with a micromanager supervisor. So, but here we are. This is the Step Said podcast. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on tonight. I'm so glad that you took a moment to come and hang out with your boy. This is my little piece of the world, my little space, my little time, and my time is up. Listen, this is what I need you all to do for me. Hold on, let me see if I got my slides. I do have my slides. So this is what I need you all to do for me. I need you all to go like, follow, and subscribe. I am Step Said It across all platforms. I'm Step Said It on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat. And as of recently, I am on Twitter. So please go like, follow, subscribe, share. This is what I need y'all to help me do. I need y'all to help me get these numbers up. Okay. So what I want to start doing is I need everybody to go to my Step Said It page, like my Step Said It page, because starting next week, I will only be streaming on Facebook from the Step Said It page. So for those of you who are streaming on my personal page, thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad y'all jumped on. I appreciate the love and the support. I need you all to jump on to the Step Said It page, because that's where we're going to be streaming starting next week. We will still be streaming simultaneously on YouTube and on Instagram. Again, Step Said It across those platforms. The other thing I need you all to do is visit my website, www.stepsedit.com, and there consider becoming a Steps Edit partner. These are the 3 levels. We have $5, $25, and $225. I will not belabor the time, but I do want you all to go to my website, take a look at it, check me out, and please consider providing some support. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it for the exposure. I'm doing this because this is going to help me boost my it's going to help me boost my advertising. It's going to help me actually create sponsorships. It's going to allow me to boost my posts and things like that. So if you like what we're doing and you believe in the program, then just put a little love behind it. That's all I'm asking. And finally, listen, if you want to be a part of the show, if you want to, you want me to talk about what you got going on, you can submit your letters. stepsedit@gmail.com. Visit the website, www.stepsedit.com. What else we got? Coming soon, I will start opening the phone lines so that you can actually call in and you can talk to me live on the air. Also, this is important. If you're interested in being a guest contributor, a guest host, please reach out to me, hit my inbox, shoot me an email, let me know, and we're going to talk about it. Coming up real soon, I'm going to do a show on red flags. I want to do a show on red flags and how to recognize them and what happens when we don't. Because you got a lot of people who they'll see red flags and just run right past them. But then the other thing we're going to talk about is yellow flags and green flags. But I don't want to be the only one on that show. I actually want to bring somebody in to do that one with me. So that's our show for tonight. If you like the show, if you think I did a good job, please let me know. Drop some comments on this post. Drop some comments in my inbox. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know how it looks. Let me know how it sounds. Let me know that you like what we're doing. And if you don't like what we're doing, let me know what I can do to change it. But now understand, if you become too critical, I'm going to hear what you say, but I'm going to still do what I want to do. Why? Because this is the Steps Edit podcast show. It's my show. And if you ask me, I'll tell you. So once again, I'm Stephen B. I'm signing out for tonight. Thank you guys so much. I am almost at an hour. I know y'all attention span ain't that long, but except for those of you who are still watching. So thank you for watching. Once again, I am Steps Edit. And if anybody asks, no, I'm not Steps Edit. I'm Stephen B. This is the Steps Edit podcast. And if anybody asks you where you get your information from, you know what to tell them. Steps Edit. We'll see y'all next week.